All right, it is 5:30, and so we're going to go ahead and get started if everybody's ready. All right, welcome. This is Wednesday, June 21st, 2023, and we are getting ready to start our closed session. So I'm going to call the closed session to order, and it's 5:30. Madam Clerk, do we have any requests to speak or any correspondence received regarding closed session?
No requests and no correspondence has been received.
All right, thank you very much. It's 5:31, and I'll go ahead and recess to closed session. Thank you. Okay, folks, if we can work our way to our seats, we're going to start in just 1 minute. All right, we're going to go ahead and get started. Welcome, everyone. This is our Wednesday, June 21st, 2023 regular Menifee City Council meeting. I'd like to call this meeting to order at 6:02, and I will ask our City Attorney, do we have anything to report out of the closed session that we had earlier?
No, Mayor, no reportable action this evening.
All right, thank you, Mr. Melching. And Madam Clerk, have you received any correspondence on tonight's agenda?
I have, there's correspondence on items 10.6 and 10.21 in the council's folders.
They're in our red folder. All right, thank you very much. With that, do you mind calling our roll?
Councilmember Dynas.
Here.
Councilmember Estrada.
Here.
Councilmember Sobek.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Carwin is absent, and Mayor Zimmerman.
Thank you, and I'm here. All right, so I don't know if Pastor Rocky Stone has joined us this evening. He was going to come. I don't see him, and so I'm going to ask Pastor Aisha B. Sharp if she wouldn't mind coming up at the last minute and pinch hitting for our pastor. As she's coming up, I'll just introduce her. She has an organization called Lead Your Ship Ministries, and she's also involved in our Interfaith Council and just one of those wonderful, awesome community members. So, Pastor Sharp, thank you so much for being willing to lead us tonight with an invocation.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. So if we could just bow our heads. Father God, I just thank you for this evening. God, I thank you for our city council. I thank you for the city of Menifee. Lord, I just ask that you just come into this meeting and continue to keep us a unified force in this city, Lord God. I ask that you continue to bless our city council people, those who lead and guide our city, Father God. I ask that you watch over them and their families as well. And so, Lord, we invite you into this meeting. We thank you for reigning with us tonight. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you so much. All right, we are going to have our flag salute, and tonight we are honored to have Master Gunnery Sergeant U.S. Marine Corps retired Artie Allen III. And Artie, if you wouldn't mind leading us in our flag salute, please, let's all stand. All right, thank you so much. Thank you, Mr. Allen. All right, so council members, let's come on up to the front. We have some presentations. And I'm going to ask Michael Cano if he would also join us up at the front. Okay, so as a lot of you know, each month we honor someone as the Citizen of the Month. We try to find somebody who goes above and beyond and does wonderful things to improve our community. Tonight we have last month's recipient because he wasn't able to make this month's, or last month's, and so we're going to do two of them tonight. This is Michael Cano, and he was selected by Councilmember Lisa Sobek, and so I'm going to pass the mic to her so that she can share why she chose him.
Thank you, Mayor. And we're so glad you can make it tonight. I don't know who's volunteering for you at the National Cemetery, but he was unable to make it in May because of his volunteer work. So, Michael, this is just a well-deserved Outstanding Citizen of the Month, and what a great example he is to our community. I'm going to share a little bit what he sent me. And he wanted everyone to know that he is an American Indian and Apache descent from his mother, born in Arizona in 1949. At age 4, moved to Redondo Beach with his parents. He served in the United States Marine Corps, 1968 to 1970. Michael began military service by volunteering for the draft in June of 1968. He served in the Vietnam War and was honorably discharged February 12, 1970. He is a long-standing member of the Menifee community and serves on the City of Menifee Measure DD Oversight Committee. Member of the Board of Directors for the Economic Development Coalition and member of the Board of Directors at the Riverside National Cemetery Support Committee and a member of the American Indian Alaska Native Veterans Memorial Committee. In addition, Michael obtained his PhD from USC in 1997. Is that right? Yes. And after 28 years of teaching, he retired as professor of economics and financing from the University of Laverne. He is currently a business owner in the city of Menifee, and for the last 8 years, he has served as post commander of Menifee VFW Post 1956. Through his leadership and dedication to helping veterans, he has fostered a growing presence in the Menifee community. As you can see here tonight, he has a lot of support. He provides veteran resources, and one thing he didn't say in here, I'm aware, especially during COVID, he was out delivering, buying food and collecting and delivering food to veterans who couldn't get out. He serves as an advocate for Home for Our Troops to build custom homes in the city of Menifee for post 9/11 disabled veterans. But Michael, I just, more than this, he is just everywhere. And when we had the Vietnam Veterans Memorial Wall here, he was out there a few days before. Because of the rain held up them cleaning the field where they needed to put the memorial. And he was out there with his men and friends, and they were out there cleaning that field way into the evenings and early in the morning. And he just goes over and above and beyond. And we're just grateful to be able to present you this. You're well deserved, and I just want to say congratulations.
Mr. Cano, I didn't know you were a teacher too. Wow, you got thick skin. Yeah, well, thank you for all you do for our city. We really appreciate it. Everywhere I go, I see you. And not only did you serve in the military, you're in education, and outside of that, you're still contributing to the community. So you're a model citizen. Menifee appreciates you. Thank you very much.
I'll keep it short, but from one veteran to another, thank you for what you do for the veterans. I don't think our community knows exactly how much work you do for all of us, so I greatly appreciate that. Thanks.
All right, I'm going to read this proclamation, and then we're going to ask you to say a few words too, Michael, so be thinking about what you want to say. This says, in recognition of your contributions, your continuous support and dedication to Menifee residents in the community, your contributions and presence as post commander of the Menifee VFW Post 1956 has fostered a positive environment, allowing veterans to pursue higher education and advocate for other veterans. The Menifee City Council thanks you for your selfless volunteer work in the city, and I'll also add that you've been an excellent member of our Measure DD Quality of Life Oversight Committee member. Appreciate you being there and showing solid leadership. So thank you, Michael. I'm going to give you the mic if you'd like to say a few words.
Folks, I am really embarrassed about canceling all these dates that the Rosine had set up for me. I'm so sorry. There's just so much activity is going on, you think you got it all covered, but you run out of time. Sometimes I'm up till like 3 o'clock in the morning, like last night, taking care of this and taking care of that. I'm by myself right now. My wife is back east in New Jersey. I went to a wedding back there. I came back because of this, as well as a program with the VFW convention that I had to go to, so it was a good thing that I went out and caught that. But I came out here to this city, 23 years ago, and it was not what it looks like today. And my wife said, after we actually came only to look for properties to put cleaners on it. And it ended out that we bought 2 houses at the same time on the other side of the freeway. So we get started with that, and the next thing you know, we're in business, we're over here, and next thing I know, I met our mayor here, and I met I've been with the council people since the first day that this city became a city. And it's really been great. I mean, I've seen the growth, and I'm really appreciated. And I'm here for all of you guys. If you ever need anything, let me know. If you know a veteran that I can help, let me know. I'm always here. Okay? Thank you so much.
Thank you. Congratulations. We're going to play next to the story. All right, congratulations, Michael. We appreciate all you do. Oh, one more. Sorry. Okay, next up, we would like to have Erica Tejeda come up. For those of you who don't know Erica, she is the former principal for Heritage High School, and then she transferred to help open the brand new Liberty High School, which most of those school students attend are from the city of Menifee. And so she was selected to be the Citizen of the Month, but there's another even better award that we're going to talk a little bit about as well. So Councilman Dean Dinas, this was your choice, so I'm going to have you share a few words.
Well, I'm tempted to say, remember the time you had to be sent to the principal's office, and did you really enjoy that? But teachers always say teachers have a big impact on their students. Well, it goes further than that, because as a principal, not only are you the administrator of the high school, but you're also an advocate for the kids. And Erica, if you talk to her, it's always about the kids, And so it was nice because she was in my district being the administrator, the principal there. Then they sent her off to Liberty to open a new one. That's how respected she is for her ability to be a principal. And it's just not my opinion or the Riverside County's Office of Education, but because this year she did such a great job, she was named the Administrator of the Year for the entire state of California. So as a longtime Menifee resident, we have someone here that is always looking after our kids and our high school students. And that's so important. I think that deserves to be the Citizen of the Month.
She's not only a great principal. I first met her children when she brought them out to one of our Thanksgiving free dinners that we do on Thanksgiving Day, and she was volunteering. So she also volunteers in the community, but under her leadership, you've taken Liberty already to great heights. So just thank you for your leadership and congratulations on Administrator of the Year for the state of California and Paris High School District, I believe, Principal of the Year. So congratulations.
Well, as an educator myself, I know all the hard work you put in, and being a principal isn't easy. Sending emails late at night, and so to be recognized as Administrator of the Year, that's a huge feat. Thank you so much for helping our future generations, fostering them, and being involved in education. Congratulations.
The biggest question, though, is to her kids, did you get away with anything as having a mom as a principal? No, I didn't think so.
There's no detention at home? There is, okay. Well, I'll tell you, it just blows my mind when I think about the fact that it's not just an honor from our school district or from the County Office of Ed, but the State of California Association of Administrators. And if you think about it, you guys, there are over 4,000 high schools in the state of California, and our high school principal rose to the top of that list. And so it really is admirable and commendable. And so, but I just want to share a little personal thing. I remember when Liberty High School was about halfway done construction, and you reached out and said, hey, you want to come take a little peek? And I went over there, and the excitement that you had about this is a career path for business, and this is a career path for whatever it was, and I can't even remember, but it was incredible, the passion that you had and the excitement, and I could see it all happening as you described what was coming and what we were going to see. And then it was about maybe 6-8 months later that we had our grand opening there and open to the students, and it was exactly what you described. And so thank you for shepherding that vision and making it a reality and having it be such a wonderful kind of a collegiate campus that our students can feel pride. And I went to a football game there, and I could see all the kids wearing royal blue, and they're all bison, and they were just super excited. And so you're doing wonderful things in our community, and so this is why we're giving you this award. I'd like you to say a few words too.
You wouldn't think I would be shy, right? But I would first of all like to thank my family. We're missing one. She has a volleyball tournament. My son said, you keep on saying that she's the middle, but I'm the middle child mom. But that happens. I call them each other's names. But very grateful. But I would not be where I am without the amazing team of teachers and students and parents and supporters. It really takes a village, and it's definitely not a one-man show. It definitely takes a lot of collaboration, a lot of communication. It takes the community to be what we are, what the herd is. We're honorable, exemplary, respectful, and determined. We have a great sports team. Our softball girls are Division 5 champs. We have I believe the 8th fastest 800 meter in the state. He's a sophomore. We just have amazing students, amazing parents, amazing teachers, and an amazing administrative team that supports the vision, and everything is student-focused, student-centered, because it has to be sustainable for our children beyond me. So this is an honor. Thank you to the city who has supported Liberty High School, our students, and internships in the next step, and we couldn't do it without everybody working together. So I'm truly honored and grateful for this. Thank you so much.
Maybe you can introduce your kids. Come on up.
This is my daughter, Alexandra. She actually went to Paris High School, graduated from Paris High School as well. My son, Jacob, he graduated from Heritage High School just recently, and my daughter has her bachelor's degree from the New York Film Academy, and my son will be attending Concordia University in Irvine on a swim scholarship, so he is part of their swim team. And I do tell my children they are my business card, and so the way they act in public is the way people think we run our house, and so they are very well behaved. But thank you all. Yes. Congratulations. Thank you. Thank you. I love you.
All right, next up we have our business spotlight. I'm going to ask Ms. Kramer to come up and introduce, and if we have some representatives from Monster Snow, if you'd also come and join us as well. I don't know if we have anybody, but.
Good evening. Good evening. My name is Rebecca Kramer. I'm an assistant to the city manager in the city executive office, and I have the distinct pleasure tonight of being able to present our business spotlight program on behalf of our economic development team. The business spotlight program is a great program. It's a free business recognition program designed to support our local businesses and their contributions to the Menifee community and the region as a whole. The city champions these businesses by creating a video that can be shared on our website as well as all of our social media accounts, and then is provided to business owners to be able to be used for their own marketing purposes. Today we are proud to announce and champion June's Business Spotlight, Monster Snow. So just a little bit about Monster Snow. Monster Snow is a family-owned boba tea and dessert shop. Owners Laura and Brian Spencer opened their first location in Murrieta in 2017, and in 2022, they expanded to bring their love of boba tea and Asian desserts to the community of Menifee, which they call home, with their second location, Monster Snow 2. Monster Snow offers cold brew tea, milk tea, freshly made boba soaked in brown sugar and honey, sounds wonderful, as well as a variety of creamy and milky flavored Taiwanese snow similar to ice cream, but lighter. Along with a Bubba Waffle, which is a popular egg waffle street snack in Hong Kong. And they also serve a variety of savory treats like fries, cheese curds, lumpia, crispy tofu, and more. After college, Laura Spencer was not certain of what her future will hold, but started working at a boba shop. And then 10 years later, after starting her family and moving to Menifee, Laura felt that working in the boba shop was one of her favorite jobs, and her passion was for Asian culture and delicious desserts. Their dream was to share a love of Asian food and culture with as many people as possible, and they were able to make that dream a reality here in Menifee with opening Monster Snow. So we're very excited to have you here. Monster Snow extends its sweetness to our community by offering a variety of fundraising opportunities for youth programs, school, club, and sports team fundraisers, which is really a beautiful thing that you do in our community, and we are so very grateful. They've also created a space for a variety of hosting K-pop sleeve events and anime meets for those that share in your love of the Asian culture. So we are proud to honor this evening Monster Snow, a business that goes above and beyond the call of business as our business spotlight. So congratulations. And if we could roll the video. That's beautiful. So, Laura, we would like to give you an opportunity to introduce yourself to the community. We welcome you. We congratulate you for what you've done for our community. And I know that you've got family here. If you'd like to welcome them up as well, we would love to have them join you.
Thank you. First of all, thank you so much for the City of Menifee for this recognition. So like she said, we opened in Murrieta, our first location 5 years ago. And it was actually 2 city representatives that stopped by and invited us to open in Menifee. I believe it was Gina who helped us secure a spot here in Menifee. So we're really grateful for that, and seeing how the city offers its support to small businesses has been really great. And sorry, I'm so nervous. I'm in food service, not public speaking. But yeah, we're just really grateful to the community of Menifee as well that has just welcomed us. We've been open for 1.5 years now, and just the outpouring of love and support for our business, we greatly, greatly appreciate it.
Congratulations. Would you like to bring your family up for No? No. All right, here, let me move around a minute.
So Laura, on behalf of the City of Menifee, we have a really nice framed certificate here for you to put on your wall. And it says, in recognition of your dedication to Menifee community and your continued commitment to improving the quality of life for our residents. For those of you who don't know where Monster Snow is, it's next to Sprouts on Newport Road. And so a lot of people know where that is. And so before you go into Sprouts' shop, stop in and get a sweet treat and get some energy. All right, so this is for you. I don't, council members, do you guys want to say anything? Are we okay? All right, well, anyway, everyone is saying congratulations. And so well done, and thank you for choosing Menifee. We're glad that you have another store right here in our town, so thank you. Excellent. All right, well done, and thank you, family, for being here as well. We appreciate that. All right, good job, Rebecca. All right, we are going to go ahead and take our seats again, and I'm going to pass it over to Ms. Mitchell, who's going to give us a community services update.
All right. Good evening, Mayor, City Council, and the public. My name is Mariana Mitchell, Community Services Manager with the Community Services Department, here to provide our June monthly update of all the fun happenings happening out in community services this summer. So it's officially the first day of summer, and it's finally starting to feel like it. So the weather is warming up. We're about a third of our way through our Menifee 15, which are 15 events that we've identified as free community events for the residents to come out and join us. That celebrates the 15th anniversary of cityhood here with the city of Menifee. We do have a couple events that are coming up in the next few weekends we want to make sure that the public is aware of. Today was our Go Skate Day at Ani Murphy Ranch Skate Park, which is still going on until 8 p.m. This weekend we have Independence Celebration, which again we'll go over a little bit more in detail in our next few slides. And then we have next few movies in the park coming up at Remington Park, Nova Park, and then our Menifee Moonlight Market at Centennial. But when it comes to Menifee 15, when we are celebrating the city of Menifee, it's really about our residents. And so what we're asking for is our residents to share your Menifee story. We have an opportunity out at each of these events for our residents to either scan the QR code, submit this in person, but we also have this option available on our city website on our special events page. So you can go to cityofmenifee.us/special events and click the link available to share your personal Menifee story that we will be looking to integrate in some of our upcoming events and some of our marketing materials as well. And coming up, we have our trademark event in partnership with Lake Menifee Women's Club, our Independence Celebration 2023. So this Saturday, June 24th at Wheatfield Park, we'll be celebrating all of the great things that make this country proud to be a part of this country. I'm sorry. We want to make sure that everybody has an awareness of the scheduled events, so there are some updates to 2023's event. The event is scheduled to start at 4 p.m. as it has many years, but we have moved the parade to 5 o'clock just to kind of help with the heat. It's starting to warm up. We want to make sure that our participants are safe and well hydrated, so we're beginning the parade a little bit later. And again, the event is open to the public at 4 o'clock. Our first band starts at 4:15. We're excited to have our U2 tribute band coming out. And then our next entertainers schedule is 6:45. Our vendors are scheduled to close between 8:30 and 8:45. They will be shutting down lines so that we can be ready for the firework display. One thing we want to make sure that our residents are well aware of is that La Piedra Road is closed from 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. And again, that's to help with safety of both our parade participants, our vendors, and our residents. Couple things that we want to make sure that everybody's aware of. We have over 60 plus food and craft vendors that are going to be out at Wheatfield Park. We will have a beer garden available for purchase, and we've expanded the kids zone by doubling the size of over 15 attractions. So it is a $15 wristband, but it's all inclusive. We would want to say thank you to our sponsors, specifically Temecula Valley Toyota and Lexus, who is our presenting sponsor. And so we really hope that our residents will come on out and participate in our Independence Celebration and take part in this wonderful event, ending with a tremendous firework display. So speaking of fireworks, we want to make sure that our residents are well aware of the options to report illegal fireworks. Our Menifee PD is available 24/7 through the non-emergency number. We want to make that available to everybody so they know this is where you can call in to report this information. But Menifee PD has gone above and beyond and has allocated additional resources specifically during the time frame of July 1st through July 5th. Where you'll see updates on the My City app, where we'll add that illegal firework tab, and then also on the city webpage where you can report an issue. And on the Menifee Police page, there's that orange button that's going to appear that can actually help residents directly fill out information related to illegal fireworks. So we have with us tonight Lieutenant Keith, who's available to answer any questions regarding these options and reporting illegal fireworks. And if not, that concludes my report.
All right, thank you, Ms. Mitchell. We appreciate that. Council members, do we have any comments or questions on that report? Hearing none, I just want to say thank you to our law enforcement team for stepping it up, as well as our CAL FIRE partners during this next week coming up. I know there's going to be illegal fireworks, and we have a lot of animals. We have people with PTSD. We have a lot of folks who suffer during this time, and so we want to be able to have a handle on that the best we can. So thank you for stepping up those efforts. We really appreciate it. Anything else, council members? All right, hearing none, thank you so much. We're going to move on in our agenda. Our next item is item 6. This is agenda approval or modifications. Madam Clerk, do we have any modifications to the agenda tonight?
No modifications.
All right, then, council members, all in favor of approving the agenda, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Hearing none, our agenda is approved, and we're on item 7 now. This is public comments for non-agenda items, and it's the time for members of the public to address the council about items that are not on tonight's agenda. The Brown Act limits the council's ability to respond to those comments at the time they're made, and each speaker will be limited to 3 minutes on a single item. So, Madam Clerk, do we have anyone filled out a speaker card and desire to speak?
Yes, I have Rose Hudd, followed by Shaya Pomula.
All right. Ms. Hudd, are you here? Huddleston. Okay, would you please come to the podium? And you have 3 minutes, and thank you for being with us this evening. Huddleston, thank you for clarifying the spelling.
Okay.
Welcome.
This is, oh, sorry. Thank you very much. Okay, so on January 6th of this year, my son and I were enjoying walking our dogs on leash in our neighborhood. As we passed a home on Sun City Boulevard, a pit bull mix came charging at us and began attacking my dog, Miley. Everything happened so quickly. My son and I were trying to get the dog off of Miley, but it had its mouth clenched around her middle. I fell on the ground during the attack, and my son was on the ground also, trying to save our Miley. The dog's owner and another neighbor came to help, and we were able to stop the attack. My son helped me off the ground, and I picked Miley up and carried her home. Miley was in pain and shock. At home, her condition turned for the worse. I made her as comfortable as possible and placed her gently in the car. Sadly, my sweet Miley passed away on the trip to the emergency vet. This was a horrible event in our lives. But then we learned information that made it even worse. This dog had attacked on 2 other occasions. In September 2018, a neighbor's dog, Macy, walked into the same yard and was brutally attacked. Macy suffered more than 10 puncture wounds. She was treated by a vet and received wound care, staples, antibiotics, and pain meds. The dog owners received a failure to license citation on their door. Again, in October of 2019, a neighbor was walking her 2 dogs on a leash past the dog owner's house when the same dog ran out and attacked her Chihuahua, Wiley. The dog owner managed to get his dog under control, but it broke free a second time and attacked Wiley again. Wiley survived but sustained 4 broken ribs and multiple puncture wounds. The only citation the dog owners have received are failure to license and microchip. The week after the vicious attack that killed my dog, the dog owners licensed it and got a rabies shot. My son and I are heartbroken from the loss of what we consider a family member. We are devastated that we could not prevent her death. It haunts me still. In 2018, Menifee adopted their own animal control laws. In 100601, it states that Menifee will try to reduce the increasing incidence of dog attacks on adults and children and death and injuries to animals. It states that Menifee wants to reduce aggressiveness and will establish a warning and hearing procedure to put the animals of dangerous dogs on adequate notice to control such animals, even to the destruction of those animals. It is time to enforce the laws that the City Council established in 2018. Owners of dangerous animals must be held accountable for every attack. Pardoning a vicious dog neglects the citizens of Menifee's safety. What if the next attack is on a person, a senior citizen, or a child?
Ms. Huddleston, your 3 minutes is up.
If you're close to wrapping it up,
I'm very close.
I'll let you continue.
And I need to say this. So I appeal to the City Council to commit to review the animal leash laws and enforce penalties, especially on repeat offenders. These dogs should not be given multiple chances to attack the pets of community members who do abide by the rules and just want to enjoy safe walks in our neighborhood. Thank you for your time, and for listening to the issues and concerns of the people in our community.
Thank you for coming and sharing, and I'm very, very sorry. I know we all are too. It sounds tragic, and it's heartbreaking to hear. I am going to ask our police chief or one of our captains to meet you out in the lobby and just make sure that we're following up, and that our partner, which is our animal control team is doing everything they can to make sure that this kind of thing doesn't happen. So we stand with you.
I apologize, though, that I've been all those routes. They would not even take a police report because no person was injured, and I went all the way through animal control as well.
Okay.
And that dog is alive and living,
All right.
and mine is dead.
I'm sorry. Thank you. All right, Madam Clerk, next speaker, please.
Shia Pomula, followed by Dave Brown.
All right, Ms. Pamula, thank you for coming tonight.
Thank you so much for the opportunity, Mayor Zimmerman and other council members. I'm new to the city. I don't know if I can say I'm new. It's been a year, and my name is Chaya Pamula, and I own a technology services company. We were headquartered in New Jersey, in East Coast. Lived there for 25 plus years, and just about a year ago moved to Menifee. Now this is my home, and our company offers all software solutions, anything to do with computers, your technology. We have 16 plus years of experience in terms of building new software, new solutions, innovative solutions, and I've been on the board of many different organizations. And we've been, we are present in Canada, India. We are a global technology services company. And now that Menifee is my home, I want to do whatever I can to help the city as it is growing. And I do want to say one thing. When I came to this city, I was a little skeptical how, I would adjust to this place. But I have been welcomed so well. And everywhere I go, and I'm a member of the chamber, Menifee Valley Chamber of Commerce, and so much warmth, and I'm welcomed so well. And thanks to the city and everyone for that. And Mayor Zimmerman, thank you so much for giving the opportunity. I do want to say I also have founded 2 not-for-profit organizations. One is for underprivileged children in India. We are actually helping 100 plus children, creating homes similar to our home, and we treat them like our own children. And these children call me mom because I speak to them twice a day, and I also have weekly meetings with my children, and I know every child in the project. And that in actually motivated me to start PAM10, my technology company, where this is serving as a foundation for building career opportunities for these children. Being in technology industry, I felt that women are minority. There are not many women in the tech industry. They are intimidated to join tech industry. So what I did is I actually founded another not-for-profit called SheTech to bring more women into the tech industry. Through SheTech, we are creating community. We have more than 1,200 women in that community, including men, and we offer mentorship, training, tech training, webinars, a lot of different things to support them to fill the pipeline, talent pipeline in the tech industry so the companies can meet their internal diversity goals. And I recently got connected with MSJC, so I'm so happy, and we are now looking at how we can work together to introduce some programs. So one more time, I'm happy to help and participate in the growth of the city in whichever form I can, bring my knowledge and experience to the city. And I see this is the fastest growing city. I'm very excited to be part of this city. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Thank you, Ms. Pamula. We appreciate that you chose Menifee, so welcome here, and we appreciate you coming to introduce yourself to the council. All right, Madam Clerk, do we have any other speakers?
Dave Brown, followed by Eddie Cook.
All right, welcome, Mr. Brown.
Good evening, Mayor Zimmerman, Councilmember Dinas, Councilmember Estrada, and Councilmember Sobek. I have to admit, with no intended disrespect, one of the reasons I retired from public service is so that I would not have to attend council meetings anymore. And here I find myself at the 3rd in just a very short period of time. But it certainly is a pleasure and an honor to be able to come and speak with you tonight. 33 years ago, my wife and I moved to Menifee. And I appreciate the city clerk allowing for 1 minute per year. So I've got about 30 minutes prepared, but I'll try to keep it to just a few minutes, to be honest. I'm kidding. 23 of our 33 years in Menifee have been on Country Haven Lane, just south of Paloma High School. When we bought that modest ranch home, we were concerned about wildfire. It's been our biggest fear in the last 23 years. Yesterday afternoon, I was leaving a meeting in the Coachella Valley, and I got that call from a neighbor that said, Dave, the hill's on fire, and we're concerned about your house. And so I obeyed all the rules of the road and got home as quickly as I could. And when I came down the pass into the San Jacinto Valley, I saw the smoke. I saw the aircraft departing from Ryan Field. And the reality was my wife was gone. I was out of town. My 83 and 85-year-old in-laws were home by themselves. I had to just have faith that the first responders in the city of Menifee would take care of us and take care of the property. I don't want to admit in front of Captain Gutierrez and his team that I did not obey the evacuation order. I found my way to my home and was amazed to have a front row seat as our first responders, the police department, the code enforcement, our rangers, and the unbelievable forces of CAL FIRE taking care of that fire. The flames got to our property line and burnt some of our fence, but our home was saved, as were 13 others on the ridge just south of Paloma High School. And I just wanted to take an opportunity to thank you as council members, city staff, and our community for their support and continued support of Measure DD that gives us the local resources to handle situations like this. So I want to take just a minute on behalf of all of my neighbors to thank you, to thank our police department, CAL FIRE, and everyone else who was involved in that really terrifying incident. But the result was a lot of brush burned, but no structures and no animals lost. So very, very thankful tonight. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you for coming, and we're really glad to hear that you and your neighbors were safe. So it was a close one.
Eddie Cook.
Welcome, Ms. Cook.
Hi, my name is Edie Cook. Make it real short. You always get nervous when I get up here like that. But anyway, I'm a resident here. I've been here almost 6 years. Retired from Riverside County about 6 years ago, so I moved here. Love the city. But the problem that we're having is the cemetery that's off Marietta Road. The back of my house is on Rouse Road. The traffic is really out of control anymore. They leave bottles and trash, baby diapers. I'm in the 55 and plus community, so we don't have baby diapers. So they have beer bottles, trash, loud music, and I don't know, maybe the city can do something about a speed bump or a light that's on Rouse Road. A lot of the seniors walk, we walk every day, 6 and 7 days a week. And it's just ridiculous the way this traffic. Now, they do have a 40 miles per hour sign, but you might as well forget it. It's like a freeway. Now, we did have, when I first moved here in 2017, we had an officer would sit back there every now and then, but I know it's really busy, and with the new influx of homes that's built around the seniors off of Sun City Boulevard, that new area, it's a dirt road, and people come out of there, and it's like crazy. So I would just ask someone, please, to try to help something on Rouse Road, because it's starting to be overwhelming for the seniors and the dogs. And nobody has gotten hit yet, but we just really need help. Because one of the officers came to us a couple of weeks ago. You might know him, Officer Rolf. He was here. He talked to us seniors about the scams and stuff. The mailbox is always getting broken into. So, but we are more concerned of the traffic that's on Rouse Road, Cross Street, Marietta Road. So we just asking someone to just come over to see the traffic and how people drive on Rouse Road. Thank you for your time.
All right, thank you, Ms. Cook. We appreciate your encouragement. Next speaker.
No other speakers.
All right, thank you. We are going to move now to item 8. This is council member updates and comments, and I'll start with Councilman Dinas.
Thank you. On June 9th, which is a Friday, the mayor and I attended the Riverside County's Veterans Legislative Breakfast. Learned a lot of good stuff there. It was at the Marion Ashley Community Center there. That evening, I attended the Heritage High School graduation. There were about 500 or so kids that graduated from there. And take a moment here to read them all, the names. Just joking. There's only 450. But it was great to be able to shake hands with all of them and enjoy seeing them graduate. Then on the 12th, the mayor and I also attended the coffee with the board at the Oasis Retirement Community. And it was a lot of question and answers and, well, a lot of questions. I hope we did the right answers, but they seem to be happy with it. So, and then finally, just yesterday, we had the Menifee Police Department awards ceremony, the annual awards. They're always exciting because they always have amazing stories what our police officers do on a daily basis. They're not, you think they're out there driving around and stuff, but it's kind of like made for television things that they do at, giving birth to kids, babies, being there when they're born, then, life-saving measures, rendering CPR, just amazing the things that they do. So I was very honored to be able to share in that. And that's all I have.
All right, thank you, Councilman. Next up, Councilmember Estrada.
Thank you, Mayor. I attended the Quail Valley community meeting, always there trying to be a listening ear and make myself available for my constituents. Also, I went to the Menifee PD ceremony with the council yesterday. That was great. Thank you to all the police officers for their service, and it's always cool hearing all the stories throughout the year, and we appreciate everything you do. And the last thing I wanted to say is thank you to CAL FIRE. Chief Olson, please let the team know we appreciate them. 43 acres is a lot of land, but we appreciate your service. We appreciate you willing to put your lives on the line to protect us. And that's all I got.
All right, very good. That was well said. Councilmember Sobek.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to share my presentation. I have a picture I'd like to share. I'm going to start off with the Menifee Police Department 3rd Annual Awards. We're coming up on year 3 of the Menifee Police Department, and as you heard already, we are very proud of our men and women in blue in the city and their staff, their support staff, and they gave out a lot of awards. We heard a lot of wonderful stories, but they do put their lives on the line every single day. But I did want to highlight the Professional Staff of the Year, which was Christina Booker. And then our Police Officer of the Year is Officer Tom, is it Harner? I think that was his name, Officer Harner. And then the Chief's Award is Sergeant Matt Block. And I did want to share those, and you see their pictures there. Along with that, this past couple weeks, I represented the city of Menifee along with a couple of my colleagues, the mayor and the mayor pro tem. We attended the State of the City of Marietta and listened to their mayor, Lisa DeForest. Something that was just very sad that I had to attend, or I didn't have to attend. I wanted to attend to support the family. A few weeks ago, I reached out to Congressman Calvert's office and needed his assistance, and they came through. One of his staff members, Shauna Remke, helped one of our family members in the city of Menifee get her son's emergency visa to come here from the Philippines. He wanted to come and see his brother who was in the hospital, and this high school student took one of those dumb TikTok challenges, and he didn't make it. And so I attended the funeral Saturday for this family, and I just want to share out there, if anybody's watching this, any family members, talk to your children. Tell them, don't do those dumb things that they put out there on TikTok. This was a wonderful young man who had a promising future. He was actually one of our 8th grade spelling bee winners in the city of Menifee. And here he was in high school getting straight A's on the track team. Just a wonderful young man, but I just want to give a shout out to Congressman Calvert office for their help in getting that emergency visa so his brother could get here. Also, this morning, I helped with our police department. They did the Responsible Compassion Homeless door hangers in the Cherry Hills area of our city and the Sun City area. Had a lot of volunteers show up, and they were able to talk to residents as well as I did and share the information about responsible compassion and the do's and don'ts of how you really want to help the homeless. If you see them as not giving a hand out, but a hand up, and give that dollar to an organization who provides the services. So kudos goes out to our police department's homeless task force. They did a great job. I attended a meeting at the ADV shelter, our domestic violence shelter with Riverside County. They've run into a little bit of a hard time. They have a GoFundMe and they have a tax ID number, so I just want to share that they're looking for any kind of donations that can help that shelter. And again, I have on here also thank you to CAL FIRE, Menifee CAL FIRE, for putting out that fire yesterday. And we heard from Dave Brown, which I'm so grateful he came and shared a little bit of those details, what great work our PD, fire, and code did to protect those residents. So I just wanted to say thank you. And that's all I have tonight.
All right, thank you for your report. I'm going to try to be quick here. This is since our last meeting on June 7th. On Thursday, the 8th, I attended a Rotary Club meeting, and it included a tour of the brand new stadium. And so the Rotarians got to check it out, and I got to tell you, it's a beautiful place. Looking forward to the public being able to start using that facility. Also, that night, there was a chamber mixer, and it was at Black Bear Diner, and I attended. And then, as Councilman Dinas mentioned, the Riverside County Veterans Advisory Committee had their legislative breakfast at the Marion Ashley Center, and that was a very informative meeting. I learned a lot there. On Monday the 12th, the Oasis had as Councilmember Dinas mentioned, their coffee with the board. And it was great to be with the folks over there at their clubhouse. And I just wanted to extend a thanks to Chief Walsh, who also joined us as well, and they always enjoy hearing from him. And then there was on Tuesday the 13th, there was a Wake Up event hosted by the Chamber, and that was at Fairfield Hotel. Councilman Carwin and I attended that. And then there was that same day a chat with the city manager, and it was also a community partners meeting. And then there was a graduation that evening for our police department's business academy I attended. On Wednesday, the 14th, I attended RCTC Commission. I do have a report out for the council. The commission approved, what we heard was what's called the 5-year call for projects, and Menifee had 2 major projects, the Scott Road Bundy Canyon widening and also the McCall widening project. And so we approved a TUMF backbone fund for not this year, but the following year, 2024 and 25, of $9.4 million for Bundy and Scott. And then also a MARA fund that's Measure A regional arterial money for McCall, and that was $3.1. And also some additional money for Scott and Bundy from that MARA fund, that was $630,000. So very good things ahead for us to be able to utilize some of that regional TUMF and MARA funds. And then on Thursday, the 15th, there was the State of the City, as mentioned, over at Marietta Hot Springs Resort, and Mayor DeForest did a very good job, and so it was nice to be there supporting our neighbor. On Saturday, the 17th, I attended a Juneteenth event. It was held at MSJC. This is the second one that was held there. I went last year, and there was probably 100, 200 people that were there in attendance and a handful of booths. This year, there was about 4 times as many people, 4 times as many vendor booths and food and all of that. So this is an event that's growing. And so I encourage our council members next year when there's a Juneteenth event, if it happens at MSJC again, to come and check it out. I think you'll really like it. And then on Tuesday, the 20th, there was the Police Department Awards ceremony, which I enjoyed attending and supporting with my colleagues here on the council. And today there was a League of Cities Mayors Collaborative meeting that I attended virtually. And then just want to end by saying I'm looking forward to this weekend's Independence Day parade and our fireworks celebration. We are a patriotic city, and that's just an awesome event that we do every year, and thanks to that good partnership with the Lake Menifee Women's Club. All right, council members, do we have anything else to add? All right. right, hearing none, we're going to move on our agenda. We're on item 9 now. This is approval of the minutes. Council members, there's 3 sets of minutes. The May 31st special minutes, that was our Parks Master Plan workshop. And then also June 7th special minutes was our facilities planning workshop. And then June 7th also our regular meeting. If there's no changes to those minutes, I'll ask all in favor of approving them, please say aye.
Aye.
All right, let's move to item 10. This is our consent calendar. All matters on the consent calendar are to be approved in one motion unless a council member requests a separate action on a specific item on the consent calendar. If an item is removed from the consent calendar, it'll be discussed individually and acted upon separately. Madam Clerk, do we have any requests to speak on our consent items?
Not at this time.
All right, and do we have any correspondence on our consent items?
Yes, 10.6 and 10.21.
All right, very good. All right, so then, hearing no speakers on consent items, council members, do we have any items that we'd like to pull for discussion? Hearing none, can I get a...
I would like to pull 10.3 and 10.19.
Thank you. Any others, council members? Hearing none, can I get a motion to approve the balance of the calendar, please?
So moved.
And I'll second that. We'll go ahead and cast our votes. That passes unanimously with 1 absent. And now, Councilmember Sobek, you asked for 10.3. That's our monthly public safety report. It's a receive and file item. What's your pleasure?
I just have a question for CAL FIRE.
Welcome, Chief Olson.
Good
evening, Mayor
evening,
and
Chief
Council.
Olson. I just noticed for the first time, I think our medical calls went over 1,000 for this time. And I just wanted to know how the new medic patrol is handling how are the calls and the medic patrol response with this new medic patrol at Station 7?
We've seen a significant reduction or kind of leveling out of the call load demand on each of those pieces of equipment at Station 7. And we're also noticing a decrease in the overall response times within the city because those resources are now closer and more available. So we're seeing success, and I will give you a full report on that during our quarterly update report. But we are seeing improvements within the public safety response times and resource allocation.
Great, great. And do you have any updates that you would like to share on the new fire station, how the building's going for station?
I heard today on a meeting that the new fire station, they're getting really close to starting to pour concrete, and then we're going to start going vertical. So we're getting closer. I believe we're still in the timeline for that first quarter of next year.
Okay, great. So that's all I have. So I'd like to make a motion, we approve 10.3.
Second.
All right. All right, that passed with 4 yeses and an absent. Let's take our next item, 10.19. This is the reject all bids for Casablanca and Willows Lake Ridge neighborhood resurfacing projects. Councilmember Sobek, what's...
Yeah, I would just like to ask Public Works just a question that I didn't see clarified in the report. I know that you're gonna go back out for bid, and this was scheduled to begin this fall, I believe, or summer. What is the time frame that you see that this might happen now?
Good evening, Mayor and Council members. Yes, in fact, we had to reject the bids because the original bids came too high outside of our project budget. So we reassessed the scope of work itself to bring it down to what it's been allocated for this project. We're actually going out to bid tomorrow for the the rebid for this same project. So we expect to start construction in a couple of months from now, just to give us time for the bid opening and then going out to council again for award.
Okay.
So, and I would say between August and September, somewhere around that time, we'll start construction. But we're still committed to complete that project this fiscal year. Or in the summer, yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. That's what I wanted to find out, because those neighborhoods are it's much needed, the slurry seal and such, those road resurfacing. So thank you for that.
Yeah,
And thank you.
well, I would say that the slurry portion that was awarded, that's going on. That will be going on a lot sooner than the
Okay.
actual resurfacing portion of the
Is
project.
on the 10.20, the next item?
Yep.
Okay. All right, thank you for that. I just wanted to make sure it wasn't like a 6 month, a year out, so thank you for that.
Yeah,
Okay.
no, it'll be done this year, yeah.
Okay, thank you for answering my questions tonight.
Thank you.
I'd like to prove that we approve 10.19.
Second.
Okay, and I see that passed with 4 yeses and an absent, so we will now move to item 11. This is our first public hearing item, 11.1, the annual levy for landscaping lighting maintenance district for fiscal year 23-24. And I see we have our team coming. Ms. Lockwood's here, so I'll turn it over to you.
Good evening, Mayor, council members. Tonight, the council is considering the annual levy. Oh, we have a presentation. Is that ready?
So if we, there it is.
There we go. Tonight, the council is considering the annual levy for the Landscape and Lighting District 89-1C. This landscape and lighting district was inherited from the county. The city assumed responsibility for providing services in 2015. The assessment for each individual property is based on the estimated specific benefit to that property. It is not based on property valuation. There are 42 active zones within our landscape and lighting maintenance district. The tax assessments collected from these zones pay for the service and maintenance of landscaping and other public improvements. For example, the tax assessments are used to pay for the trimming of more than 2,300 trees, nearly 200 fossil filters, more than 90 streetlights, and 25 traffic signals. Assessment money from this district is also used to pay for trail maintenance, fence maintenance, irrigation, and backflow devices. The proposed assessments for fiscal year 23-24 total $879,996. The annual levy is a multi-step process. It started earlier this calendar year with a consultant working with city staff to determine the expenses for the upcoming fiscal year and develop budgets. The council then considered a resolution of intention to levy and was able to view the cost estimates provided in the engineer's report. That was done at your May 17th meeting. Tonight, we are here for the public hearing, ordering the levy for the Landscape and Lighting Maintenance District. Once the levy is ordered, we would finalize the enrollment packet and be able to get that to the county by their early August deadline. The city is required by the county to every year provide a certified resolution in order to get these tax assessments on the property tax roll. By the council taking this action, the city will be able to continue to provide the maintenance and services within this district next fiscal year. Staff recommends that the council conduct the public hearing this evening and adopt the resolution for ordering the levy and collection of assessments for fiscal year 23-24 for Landscaping and Lighting Maintenance District number 89-1C.
All right, Ms. Lockwood, thank you for your excellent presentation. I want to just praise you for the way you presented and you summarized and didn't read word for word. Thank you for that. I love presentations like that. They're right to the point. All right, so council members, do we have any questions of staff on this item? I see no questions, so I'm going to go ahead and open the public hearing. It is 7:06, and Madam Clerk, was this legally noticed?
Yes, it was.
Any correspondence received?
No.
All right, do we have any speakers or public testimony on this item?
No, we do not.
All right, I'm going to close the public hearing. It's still 7:06, and council members are going to pull behind the rail for discussion, or if you want to move staff's recommendation to adopt the resolution.
I'll move approval.
Okay. All right, that passes with 4 yeses and an absent. Thank you, Ms. Lockwood. We appreciate your good report. You may be back up again because we're on 11-2 now. This is the annual levy for CSA fiscal year 23-24. So I'll turn it back over to you.
Okay. So tonight, the council is considering the annual levy for the county service areas, as you mentioned. Just like the LLMDs, the city's 6 CSAs were inherited from the county, and the city did begin to assume responsibility for service when it incorporated in 2008. Services the city provides through the CSAs include park maintenance, street lighting, and road maintenance, as well as law enforcement services in Quail Valley. The proposed assessments for fiscal year 23-24 total amongst the 6 county service areas $1,908,730. Here you can see the 6 individual CSAs. You can see the services that are provided for each one and the levy that we're looking at for fiscal year 23-24 for each.
Good, council? Okay, good.
Oh, sorry, I saw a head nod.
No, I just wanted to make sure everybody was ready to move on.
Okay. And this is, again, very similar to the LLMD. So it's a long process. We're in the middle of it. At the council's May 17th meeting, you took your first action, which was the resolution of intention to levy, and getting a look at the CSA report that showed the estimated expenses. Tonight, we're here for the public hearing to order the levy. And then subsequent to that, we would finalize the packet and get it off to the county. Same as with the LLMDs, the city is required to provide the certified resolution each year. That's why we have a resolution here for you. And by putting this on the annual property tax roll, the city will be able to continue to provide these services next fiscal year within each of the individual CSAs. Again, staff is recommending that you conduct the public hearing and adopt the resolution ordering the levy and collection of charges for fiscal year 23-24 for the 6 CSAs.
All right, thank you so much, council members. Do we have any questions for staff on our CSAs?
I have one question.
Okay.
So with the new budget, biannual budget, how does this affect that?
So tonight, what we're giving you for both the LLMDs and the CSAs is a 1-year levy, because that's what the county accepts, the levy for this next fiscal year. We'll be coming back to you mid-cycle, so next year, asking for the resolutions for that annual levy. Is that your question?
Yeah, so we can't do the biannual because okay. All right. So how does that affect the budget when we're trying to do a biannual budget?
That's a good question. To add on to what Ms. Lockwood is stating, so the submittal itself is done individually to the fiscal year, because for the property owners, if we did them together, they would get 2 years worth of charges all at once.
Okay.
However, to join it to the biannual process, we already went through the exercise of doing initial estimates even for the second year. And even on the revenue side and on the expenditure side, some of these in the LLMD side have escalators too that are actually finalized around the springtime. So their initial estimates, but we really started a lot of the effort in that. So it is absorbed in the proposed 24-25 budget, if that makes sense, but the actual enrollment will not happen until next time.
Okay, that's what I wanted to know, so thank you.
It's a good question, yeah, but glad to know it's coming mid-cycle, so we'll be able to see what it is next year. All right, any other questions, council members? All right, I'm going to go ahead and open the public hearing at 7:10. Madam Clerk, was it legally noticed and any correspondence received?
It was legally noticed, no correspondence.
Do we have any speakers tonight on this item?
No, we do not.
All right, I'm going to close the public hearing, 7:11. Council members, we can open up for discussion, or again, we can take a motion to approve staff's recommendation to adopt this resolution. Any discussion? Do we have a motion?
I move to approve.
Okay. And that passes with 4 yeses and an absent. We're going to move to item 1113 now. This is the 2022 delinquent solid waste account. And I see Ms. Jones here, so welcome.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. So we, similar to the previous items, this is a tax roll item of delinquent waste management accounts. So as public health concern, solid waste collection services are never suspended on a delinquent account. Instead, the outstanding balances are tax rolled if they're not satisfied within the year onto the property tax. So annually, Waste Management submits a listing to the city of delinquent accounts from the prior year to be tax rolled. And just for reference, accounts are considered delinquent after 60 days past due. So notices are mailed out to delinquent accounts. Mailed out to delinquent accounts, detailing options for the customer to resolve the principal balance before being tax rolled. Okay, so this slide illustrates the breakdown of how fees are assessed for the tax roll. So you have the principal balance, which is the past due balance on the bill. There's also a 10% penalty added. There's a one-time fee of $37.66 per account. And then there's also interest of 1.5% per month delinquent. So customers do have the option to resolve the principal balance prior to July 21st to avoid all of those additional fees and to be removed from the tax roll. So this is just a timeline of the process. So May 1st, we received the official listing of delinquent accounts from Waste Management. Around May 15th, notices were mailed to delinquent accounts detailing the process and the public hearing process as well. And then tonight we're having our public hearing and requesting the resolution to allow Waste Management to submit the tax roll. And again, July 21st is the deadline for customers to resolve their balance and be removed from the list. And then August is when it has to be reported to the county. So these charts just illustrate where we started with the initial list that Waste Management provided. Since the notices have gone out, we've seen a reduction in the amount of accounts that are currently on the listing to be tax rolled. And I just received an updated listing tonight, so it's a little less than that as well. So the recommended action is to hold the public hearing, adopt the resolution, and again, just to emphasize, the customers have until July 21st to resolve their balances.
All right, Ms. Jones, thank you. I see that one slide says it was July 1st and it got moved to 21st. That gives them a little bit of extra time, so that's kind of a good thing, right?
Yeah, I think in the past it's been that date, but I believe as a result of like COVID, Waste Management started to extend that date a little bit to July 21st, and they've just continued to honor that next year.
Okay, good. And then I have another question. So let's say somebody just says, I'm just not going to pay. What's the ultimate? Do we put a lien on the property, or does it show up somewhere? What happens if somebody just continues to be delinquent forever?
Oh, once it goes on your property tax, I think it just kind of follows that same
they have
process.
They'd have to pay that in property tax.
On
Okay.
selling the house or something.
I believe like if they go to sell their home, then that would be attached.
Okay. All right, that makes sense. Any other questions, council members, on this item? Hearing none, I'm going to go ahead and open the public hearing. It's 7:15. Madam Clerk, was this legally noticed in any correspondence?
Yes, it was, and no correspondence.
All right, anybody want to speak on this item, public testimony?
No public testimony.
All right, then I'll close the public hearing at 7:15 still. And council members, it's open for discussion. And when we're ready, there's going to be two motions. So do we have any more discussion on this item, or are we ready to move ahead? All right, so the two actions we're going to do, one is approve the solid waste delinquency report, and secondly, adopt a resolution authorizing the collection of the delinquent solid waste charges on the annual property tax roll.
So moved.
All right, thank you.
I'll second.
All right. And that passes with 4 yeses and an absent. Thank you, Ms. Jones. All right, let's move to item 12. This is a discussion item. This is Community Facilities District 2022-1, Courts Ranch, the issuance of special tax bonds. And I see Ms. Lockwood's back at the podium, so welcome back.
Good evening again. Lori Lockwood, financial analyst over special districts. Thank you for that.
Tonight, the council is going to consider the bond issuance for the Quartz Ranch community. And we do have a presentation on that. There we go. Thank you. It's going to be a relatively short presentation, but we just want to note a few things. The issuance of the bonds is authorized under state law. We are abiding by the city's own policy related to the formation of CFDs and the issuance of bonds. This was presented to the Finance Committee at their May meeting, and the Finance Committee did recommend it be brought to the council. And lastly, although the council is the body that authorizes the bonds, the city itself is not on the hook for any of the debt. It's the special assessments, the money coming in from the special assessments that will be used to pay off the principal and interest payments as they become due. It's a long process. We won't go through all of this. It starts with drafting legal and financing documents. There's a lot of phone calls. There's a lot of consultation. In the end, the bonds are issued. The developer receives the money and can use it for capital projects and to pay the costs of issuing the bonds. The annual special taxes land on the property tax bills, and the bond owners are paying this off semi-annually. Now, Shane Spicer with Spicer Consulting Group and Brandon Kafori with Urban Futures will explain the project and some of the financing elements.
Excellent. Welcome, Mr. Spicer.
Good evening. So a little bit about the CFD. This is CFD 2022-1 Quartz Ranch, located in the 2nd District on Evans between Holland and La Piedra. This CFD was formed in 2022, includes 379 single-family residents as developed by Lennar Homes, has been received very well. We are sizing these bonds on 216 developed lots out of the 379. That was how this was presented to the Finance Committee. And this is similar to McCall, Mesa, and Banner Park, where we reduced the amount of bond issuance to be consistent with the amount of development that's taken place. So as you can see here, at the time of the request, there are 84 of the lots that had been individually owned. We are currently at about 50% of the 216 lots as developed lots as being individually owned, which is consistent with the city's policies. The financing is not to exceed $27 million, and it is expected that these bonds are going to be approximately $11.2 million, leaving $15.8 million available for a parity bond issuance. The bonds will be sized at 110 coverage, and it is estimated that the CFD tax rate is going to be 28.37 to 39.60 for 23-24. It will be the first time on the tax rolls for individual homeowners. As was discussed at the Finance Committee, once these bonds are fully issued and the second series are issued, at that time we will see a full reduction in the assigned tax rates on property owners. But until that time, we are going to be seeing the assigned tax rates until build out. And with that, I will turn it over to Brandon.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the council, and staff. Brandon Kafori with Urban Futures. We're serving as the municipal advisor on the transaction. The resolution before you this evening approves a bond issuance not to exceed $13 million. As part of that approval and in the resolution, there are a number of documents that the resolution authorizes for essentially execution. They're required to do the transaction. I won't walk through all of these, but they are the preliminary official statement, bond indenture, continuing disclosure certificate, the bond purchase agreement, and the good faith estimates. Just a bit about the financing and some statistics here. So this, again, as Mr. Spicer had indicated, is a financing in the size of about $11.2 million. That's a current estimate. We will lock that in at bond pricing, which we anticipate could happen as early as next week. The final maturity is 2053. This is a 30-year term financing consistent with what was approved by the Financing Committee. We have some statistics on the left side here for sources and uses of the funds that is intended to offer some transparency as to how these monies will be allocated. It should not come as a surprise that the majority of those funds go to the project fund. It's currently estimated at about 9.8 million, and those monies will be used for improvements that benefit the district. On the right side, I'll just briefly explain this graph. It essentially shows the debt service of the bonds and the proposed special tax revenue collections. Mr. Spicer indicated that the sizing for this transaction is based off of 216 parcels, and there's a 2% escalator. So that's essentially where you get the green line on the graph, and then the blue bars are the debt service. So you can see that space there between is how we're sizing it to have a level of coverage on the bonds and as required by the bond documents. Very briefly, this is a breakdown of the cost of issuance for the transaction. So Ms. Lockwood indicated earlier there's a process that is transacted for this, that various consultants involved for the city and the city's staff time. And these are essentially an estimate of those costs. All of these, I will say, will be paid out of the anticipated bond proceeds, and these are essentially paid at closing. It's my understanding that the city's negotiated several of these rates with the various consultants. And again, this is, as I indicated on the prior slide, and in the good faith estimates, it's all paid out of the bond closing. Just to wrap up here with our planned schedule, so if the item tonight is approved by council, we anticipate pricing these bonds as early as next week, as I said, on June 27th. Our plan is, again, with approval to post the preliminary official statement tomorrow, assuming we have all items in order, which we fully expect. Pricing will occur next week, and at that time, the interest rates on the bonds will be set. And then a few weeks later, we will settle the bonds, have closing, and that's when the monies are transferred and everything is settled. So with that, that concludes the presentation we had planned. Happy to take any questions, and we have representatives from the other city consultants in attendance this evening.
All right, thank you, Mr. Kafori. Council members, do we have any questions for the team? All right, Councilmember Estrada.
Hey, good evening. My question is on slides, comparing slides 4 and 5. It says there's a total of 379 parcels in slide 4. And then in slide 5, it mentions special taxes from 216 parcels will provide 1.10 coverage.
Yeah.
The way I read that, how are certain parcels not paying bonds, or can you help explain that for me, please?
I'll start and then maybe have Mr. Spicer step in, but essentially that relates to the way the bond sizing is structured. So we're only sizing on 216 parcels. It's consistent with the level of development. So the bonds are secured by the entire CFD, but because there's still some ways to go with development, we're not sizing on the entire project itself. So once the permits are pulled, they're considered developed, and at that point, special taxes are levied, and that's how this transaction is structured. So at this point in time, there's 216 parcels, and I don't know if you'd have anything to add, but.
Good question. And this is something we did discuss in the Finance Committee, and it's intentional. We are sizing the bonds at 216 units of the 379 because there are 216 that have building permits. The balance remain to get building permits issued, and so since we are going to be taxing all 216 this tax year, it's the practice to levy the full assigned tax on development as it occurs. So property owners aren't shocked a year, 2 years later, and they get a tax bill that has the CFD on there. So it happens when the building permit is issued. And so at this point, there's sufficient development to warrant us to issue a portion of all the bonds that are available in the CFD. So we're going to issue on 216 today. We're going to come back as development wraps up and issue the rest of the bonds on the balance of the 379.
Okay, and did that come back to council?
Correct.
Again?
That'll go back through Finance Committee and to council for approval for and we've done this once before. In fact, we're going to be coming back for the second series for Banner Park in a couple weeks for that very instance, wrapping up that bond series.
Oh, thanks for clarifying that.
Any other questions, council members? I got a quick one. This one's kind of, I don't even know what I'm talking about, but when it comes to what the interest rates are going to be and we're trying to lock in, does the city's bond rating have anything to do with helping to secure a better rate if we've got a AAA rating or something like that?
So for the CFD, because it's secured by the district, a city bond rating would not necessarily factor into that.
Okay.
But there is, I would say a reputational quality with the city of Menifee name. This is one of several transactions that has been brought forward. People know it's a fast growing community, and so there's that aspect, but each district is sort of rated, assessed individually.
Okay.
If that answers your question.
It certainly does. It's perfect. Thank you. Any other questions, council members? All right, seeing none, Madam Clerk, do we have any requests to speak on this item or any correspondence on this item?
No request and no correspondence.
All right, council members, we'll open up for discussion or entertain a motion to adopt the resolution.
So moved.
All right.
Second.
That passed unanimously, 4 and an absent. All right, thanks, team. Let's move to our last and final discussion item. This is item 12.2, and it's our adoption of fiscal year 23-24 and 24-25 two-year budget and a revised policy FN 13. And I see Ms. Cornejo is at the podium, so welcome.
I am. Good afternoon, Mayor, council members, and members of the public that are joining us today, as well as those that may be joining us virtually. Stated this afternoon, it is our pleasure to present to you the conclusion of the proposed budget for the 23-24 and 24-25 budget cycles. This is the city's first biennial budget. It's been a long journey, and we have a presentation to go through today. We will try to keep it as concise and hopefully as interesting as possible as budgets can be. And we included in that, we have some policy updates to align with that biennial process, as well as some recommendations that will help us streamline and help in the budget management element. And forgot to introduce myself, but I am Margarita Cornejo. I am the Deputy Finance Director for anybody who may be joining us. Okay, so one part of the budget process that we really enjoy is the annual theme that comes together by the Mayor Pro Tem every year. It's exciting to see what our council members come up with and are inspired. 2 years ago we did It Starts With Me, talked a lot about the individual and the collective that goes into it. This last year it was energized by Empowered by Menifee, which spoke a lot to how we are connected by our community services and nonprofits that help make Menifee the special place that it is. And this year's theme is Building for the Future. And I think it's very special and well connected to kind of where we are going. The city of Menifee is 15 years old, and we'll be celebrating that throughout this year as we reach that 15 year. We spent the 22-23 budget cycle talking a lot about planning and the importance of planning for the future. And we saw some very important plans come to be adopted and presented this year, specifically our strategic plan, most recently our park master plan. And those are all the things that lay the foundation of kind of where we're going. Tonight, we're presenting a 2-year budget cycle that's based on the efforts that were lined up with the 10-year kind of forecast model. So we're ready, now that we have some strong plans updated and in place, to really start looking at building for the future. And that's really even in the elements of our organizational capacity, building not only our infrastructure, but building our workforce, investing in them, making sure that our annual budgets incorporate that, and then looking at what are the needs of our community and how well we're going to start serving them. In this February, we presented for council and received approval to move forward, for instance, with our Enterprise Resource Planning Program, our ERP system. And since then, we've had a number of internal meetings that have been going through our finance department and other departments as we start moving in that 18-month implementation process. That to us is part of that building for the future. Understanding that operationally, if we invest in something like that, at the end product, we will be better suited to serve our growing population. On June 7th, Council also had a workshop presentation on future facilities. And that in itself is also a concentrated effort to look at, as we build in the future, what does that look like as we see our population grow year over year. So today and in our budget, we are saying goodbye to the strategic plan from 2018 to 2023, where we had our 4 pillar goals, and we are now connected by 5 pillar goals, which are our connectivity and mobility, unique identity, community engagement and social infrastructure, thriving economy, and safe and vibrant community, to altogether build a safe, thriving, premier, and inclusive place to be. It's not by coincidence that at our 15th year of existence, one of the goals that has been identified is unique identity, because when you pair that along to kind of when you're 15 years old and you're getting into that adolescent stage, you really start to focus on who you want to be and how you identify yourself. So it's not really coincidental to see that appear going into our third strategic plan, and that it would speak in the way that we are moving for in the next 5 years, and that we also start to focus on things that are community engagement and social infrastructure as we start to expand in population size, but want to continue to keep the connections and relationships that as a community Menifee has become to know. So our municipal biennial budget is still a plan, as it always has been, of revenues and expenditures, except now it captures 2 12-month periods. It still has the same components that you're typically going to see in a budget, the revenue side of where the money is coming from and the expenditure sides. And we're still going to have fiscal years. So we're still going to keep that 12-month cycle. We just are looking 2 years into it. And we're still going to always develop our biannual process with the focus of having a structurally balanced budget, meaning that our recurring revenues are matched by our recurring expenses. We don't want to commit to long-term expenses with one-time money. For example, when we have a windfall like American Rescue money that came in a few years, we understand that while it's a positive, it's not here forever. So the deliberate and strategic use of that money to be used for one-time things is the most prudent thing to do. And that is decisions on doing ongoing expenses, whether that be workforce or services, are made, that it is really with the lens to make sure that we're going to have those recurring revenues to support that. So for 23-24 and 24-25, the analysis that goes into the budget process includes the overview of itself, an analysis and development of our operating budget, as well as our capital improvements, or our CIP program, which was presented to you at the June 7th council meeting. And the backdrop to developing those is an economic forecast and revenue analysis to ensure that the projections that are being made in the future are realistic and also factor the national, state, and local things that could impact our revenues. The budget planning and management side has an extensive process that goes through it, everything from the revenue analysis, long-range financial planning, development of performance and goals and objectives to ensure that we move towards that strategic plan one item at a time, one goal at a time. We look at our internal service funds and our CIP program development, and then the individual department review and analysis. All that is done internally, but also forward-facing and wanting to ensure that our community has an opportunity to speak and provide input. So we hold various community engagement and workshops through this process. And then another element we looked at today in the sides of our lighting and landscaping maintenance districts, as well as our CSAs, are special revenues and expenditures that also help us serve the community. Once a budget is adopted, there's the management side that comes to play throughout the year. That's the regular monitoring of actuals, budget carryovers, additional appropriations that come throughout the year, making sure that we're on track with the goals and performance that we've set, and seeing how that all aligns with our 10-year forecast model. This is all often summarized in our mid-year and our mid-cycle reviews. And this 2-year kind of cycle illustration presents to you a more detailed picture of what the month-to-month is going to look like in a biannual process. All of this is structured to maintain the same transparency and reporting that we regularly would have had. But what it achieves is that long-term financial planning and streamlining and consolidation of budget processes. As we move on to the ERP process in the next few months, we understand that that will take a lot of effort, and competing with a regular budget cycle would make it additionally stressful. So as we strategized and looked at what the best approach would be in conjunction with long-term financial planning, we thought the best time to implement something like this would be now. But our year-end reporting and accounting will continue to maintain the same schedule and timeframes that we always did. And what you will see that you previously did not is a mid-cycle review, which would be a little past the year one mid-year review, but before June, where you would look at, are there any significant adjustments that we want to do in preparation for the second year? For example, to what we spoke earlier for the lighting and landscaping districts and the special districts, that's where we will make any revisions and adopt the actual levy that would move forward in that year. What you're seeing in consideration for the adoption today are estimates that have been structured on what we kind of foresee for the next 2 years, but that mid-cycle really gives us opportunity to make any final modifications that may be necessary to start the next fiscal year. Our budget timeline has been including CIP workshops, and that's where we really started the conversation of doing a biannual process this year. There were 2 dedicated CIP workshops where staff presented the general program of what construction projects would be included for the next 2 budget cycles. For the area of our quality of life, we convene that committee on a regular basis so they can provide direct feedback and blessings on what the recommendations of what that funding is going, and then provide recommendations for council's ultimate approval. We held a budget workshop on May 3rd, 2023, and tonight we're presenting you the budget for adoption. This slide, similar to the workshop, has not changed, but summarizes the general fund and quality of life budgets, revenue and expenditures, and represents a balanced budget on that area. This is the area that is focused when you're looking at an entity to make sure that you have a balanced budget, and even further, a structurally balanced budget on the operational side. So as presented on May 3rd, for the 23-24 year, the total revenue side is about $91.7 million, and on the expenditure side, it's $97.035 million. That does include the deliberate use of fund balance. That's not reserves, that is excess fund balance that is intentionally being directed towards high priority CIP projects. From general fund, it is $1.2 million that is being directed to the Bradley Bridge project, and the $4 million, there's a listing in a further slide that will outline what projects those are being directed to. The use of fund balance in this case is deliberate again, and it is strategic, and it is consistent with our fund balance policy, which says that the use of excess fund balance would be used for one-time uses. It's the equivalent of using savings when you're trying to save up for, let's say, you want to do a home remodel, like a kitchen remodel. You may not necessarily want to plan to use that from your income that you're going to be from every year, but start saving aside month to month, and in the following year do that. What we are doing here is investing in specifically capital projects with the use of fund balance. The operating expenses, where your personnel, your regular operating, even capital outlays, transfer and allocations, those are all covered with the revenues that are expected to be received. And that's where you see your recurring expenses match your recurring revenues. In fact, as illustrated on the table on the right, you can see there's actually a slight excess in both years of revenues over expenditures. It's just under $1 million in 23-24, and then just under $500,000 in 24-25, and that's where that money has been sent and redirected to be used for the CIP program. Just wanting to illustrate on that element of structurally balanced and why we are presenting a balanced operating budget today is to, in a different graphical representation, show you that our revenues exceed our operating expenditures for both years, for the net difference that again is redirected towards our CIP program. Our budget is represented by two main components. There's the operational budget side that represents really a lot of the ongoing stuff, except for capital outlays. You see personnel, programs, services in there, and then you have the CIP budget, which represents long-term capital improvements. What we have wanted to just summarize is where the money comes for these. Where are the revenue sources? And in both cases, these are funded by general fund, quality of life funds, and special revenue and other funds. Summary on the economic outlook that was used to build this biannual budget is that at a national level, you still have that element of uncertainty. You see good things, and then you see some things that make people a little bit nervous. For the past 12 months, we've lived a lot with the with the inflation and the trying of the federal government to rein that in, but also not unintentionally create a recession. It has started to level off, but in that, with interest rates continuously increasing, it has led to some element of slowdown in housing permits and consumer confidence. However, on the other side, you see continued strength in the labor side and consumer spending. In totality, what does that represent for the city of Menifee? That yes, we are still impacted to some element by things like higher interest rates, but also Menifee still continues to experience growth. We were one of the few cities within Riverside County and even the state of California that experienced population growth in the last year compared to our prior year. So we have some indicators that show us that yes, maybe there is some slowdown as a whole level, but our local economy continues to be strong and resilient, and what we show in our forecast for the next 2 years is growth in all our top revenues. Financially planning, we continue to look at long-term strategic planning, making sure that we maintain appropriate reserves, that we look to do proactive efforts like pay off our unfunded pension liability, and that we strategically plan our CIP program to prioritize those projects that need to be done earlier. To our fund balance policy and amount, we currently have a fund reserve requirement of 35%. That's broken down into 3 components. That is summarized here for the 3 years. What we really want to highlight on this slide is that it's as we build our budget, we are focused a lot on, okay, what are the expenditures that we have, but one of the leading foundation steps that we start internally from the financial management side is making sure that we have the appropriate reserves to accommodate the request. So as our operational expenses are estimated to go up, we analyze that we have the capacity to make that reserve requirement adjustments that are necessary. And so for the 2 proposed budget cycles that are the 2 years that are being proposed in this budget cycle, we have done that analysis and we have verified that we would have the capacity to meet that 35% reserve requirement. Revenues, these are not all inclusive of all our revenues, but these represent our top revenues in our most discretionary funds, and that's our general fund and our quality of life. That's sales tax, property tax, VLF, our development revenue, our franchise fees, and sometimes one-time revenue fees, really revenue, and that really in the last year is in representation to our American Rescue funding. As we look and we build ourselves to be stronger financially in the future, we continue to look at ways to proactively diversify our revenue streams so that we're not reliant on just one source of funding, so that if at any point in time that particular industry or sector is impacted, we have the ability to absorb some element and it is not completely dependent on just that source. For instance, when COVID hit, certain agencies that have historically experienced significant revenues in areas like tourism and receive like TOT revenues saw a significant decrease in their revenues. Menifee doesn't have currently all its revenues necessarily all in one basket, but we continue to see ways that we can maximize and diversify that so that as we move into the future, we have that stability. Just wanted to highlight specifically to our property tax area and our interest element in our property tax. While this is an important revenue for us, we share this with a number of other entities. And so for the city of Menifee, for every dollar that is paid in property taxes to the county, the city receives the equivalent of 13 cents. So that makes it where we look to use our other revenue sources to do that. Now, we talked about interest going up, and impacting not just us, but other sectors like borrowing in other ways. But one positive and silver lining of interest going up is that on our investment side, we have positively seen a lot of growth than to what we saw. When we started our budget this year in 22-23, we adopted an interest income anticipated to be just under $450,000 across all funds. When we looked at it at mid-year based on actuals, we could clearly recognize that it was a lot higher than we thought, so we adjusted it to just under $1 million. As we stand today, we are just at $1.6 million, and we're projected to be just under $2 million as we close out the year. As we go into the next 2 years, we have projected them just over $900,000 conservatively, but as you can see, that is at least one positive of that side of interest going up. This is a graphical representation of our base revenues, or our main revenues over the last 5 years. As you can see, they have all experienced nice and steady growth. And moving from the revenues, we want to spend some time talking about our GAN limit. In 1978 and /1979, Proposition 4 implemented what is known as the GAN appropriation limit with the intent to somewhat limit the growth of state and local appropriations, specifically the use of funds coming from tax proceeds. So what was instituted is that local agencies and state agencies and even school districts are required to do an annual GAN limit calculations that kind of sets the ceiling of what the maximum amount that you can appropriate per year, specifically from tax proceeds. Now, tax proceeds is specifically defined as certain categories such as sales tax, property tax, but not things like our special assessments like the LLMDs and the CFDs. Those are providing direct and special benefits. So the calculation itself provides some very specific categories that define that. And the calculation for this year, our limit is just over $61.3 million. That is our maximum limit, and to ensure that we are below that limit, staff has completed the exercise of estimating based on the proposed budget for 23-24 if we are recommending a budget that stays below that amount, and we can state that we are. The recommendation for the appropriation subject to the limit is 60.5, so we are in adherence with the state requirement. And to give some reference on our appropriations limit, here is the historical of it. We are a relatively new city. Oftentimes you'll see cities that have really large appropriation limits, and that's just based on the fact that they were in existence in perhaps closer to 1979 than we are. We are a city that continues to experience growth, and so for us, when it comes, and for all agencies, when it comes to doing the GAN limit calculation, the really two main factors that we're looking at is your population growth factor and an inflation growth factor. For us, the fact that our city continues to grow in the population side contributes to the limit calculation amount that increases every year. And operational budget expenses. This is within the operating budget of the general fund and quality of life. Our main categories are personnel costs, operation maintenance costs, and capital outlays. On our personnel side, we do have some additional personnel requests which we presented at the budget workshop. We will summarize them again today, but we've also are reflecting things such as merit increase, existing labor, MOU commitments that are in place. On the operation and maintenance expenses, we'll highlight some of the larger items in a later slide, but it covers everything from direct program services including interagency agreements and so forth. Capital outlays, it's the direct purchase of things like vehicles and larger assets that are more than $5,000. Summarized during the workshop presentation, on the capital outlay side, really our larger expenses for the upcoming year are related to some fleet replacements, and that is in relation to our police department. We purchased vehicles because of necessity at the exact same time of launching our department in 2020, so all of those vehicles are of the same age. In an effort to try to phase it in financially and start cycling the replacement of those vehicles, the proposal is to factor in the replacement of 8 vehicles in the next 2 years. On the operation and maintenance side, really the larger increases are represented by existing commitments that we have in place, such as our insurance premiums. We have seen increases in those. We have seen increases in our fire contract as there are state negotiations that took place for the CAL FIRE personnel. And then we also have existing labor MOU agreements in place through 23-24. For 24-25, those negotiations will go underway this year, but from the budget side and the planning side, we have to build that with some assumptions. When we met for the workshop, we summarized that the request for this budget cycle at this point in time is there are no personnel requests in 24-25 that will be revisited during the mid-cycle process. However, for 23-24, there is the request for 7 full-time equivalents personnel that's represented across engineering, IT, community services, and public works, as well as 4 part-time cadets, which equate to 2 full-time equivalents under the police department, and there were various reclassification requests across various departments. Here is the detail of the positions that were requested, and really, to paraphrase these are really summarized on focusing on serving our community in the really outward-facing public area and high priority elements. We have included support staff in the side of our CIP program, as we have a pretty aggressive CIP program in the next 2 budget cycles that we really want to move projects forward on. So we have a project manager as well as a senior public works inspector that will support CIP as well as our land development activity. We have addition of field staff for both public works and parks, and that is to continue to support the field services that are required to maintain this beautiful city of more than 46 miles. And then we have a cybersecurity manager in the IT department, because as we try to move and continue to move on the side of innovation and really start using technology as our ally to streamline processes, we also understand that with that you have to prudently and recognize that there are inherent risks that come when you work in that element, in that environment, and to proactively address that, to have a focused personnel that focuses on mitigating risk on the cyber kind of environment world is really going to set us in positions that hopefully minimize our exposure and risk in those ways. To the reclassifications, there were a total of 7 positions that were requested, but the net impact is a net decrease, and that's because one of the positions includes a reshift of a position from a current higher title to a lower title. So the net impact of the 7 actually results in about $2,400 decrease over the next 2 years. And the last position, while it is not a city position, it is a position that it would be represented in the fire contract, is the addition of a 0.6 FTE administrative assistant to support the fire department. Now, it's 0.6 because the city of Lake Elsinore has agreed to share that position with us, so they will pay the other portion of that position. To quality of life, as an important revenue for the city of Menifee, the committee met on April 25th and reviewed the proposed budgets for the next 2 years and made a motion for the council to consider the recommendations of the committee as staff presented this. Quality of life came to be in 2016, and it just has continued to be instrumental in the city's vision and efforts to continue to increase our public safety, enhance our fire services, and improve our infrastructure. For 23-24, we have a fund balance in place, and the use of that fund balance for the upcoming year, as stated earlier in this presentation, really is intended to be directed towards our CIP program. We will be using our revenue for the upcoming year to be directed towards our code enforcement, as we have historically used this to fund 3 officers, as well as a portion of our contract with the fire. And our Menifee Police Department, this pays 35% of all personnel within our existing police department, as well as the contract with the city of Murrieta for dispatch services. In the subsequent year, 24-25, as we are recommending using all fund balance in 23-24, the revenue that is presented is projected to be based on anticipated revenue. And again, in that year, it's directed towards code, fire, Menifee Police, and then about just under $400,000 towards CIP. This is a listing of the CIP projects specifically that are included to be used with quality of life, and this is consistent with the program that was presented to council on June 7th and adopted by council. In this slide is a summary of quality of life across from revenues to expenditures, showing the use of fund balance in the first year, and then the next year a balanced use of revenues and expenses. The next slides summarize the total of the revenues and expenditures of general fund and quality of life combined. These are the same as were presented in the workshop. There are no changes from that. This is a summary of the operating budget by department for general fund and quality of life, 90.7 million. This is the same amount as was presented during the workshop. And the 94.22 is the operating budget for 24-25. And again, no changes from the workshop presented on May 3rd. This rather busy slide gives you the side-by-side of the 2 years, 23-24, expenditures and, from general fund and quality of life by really department function, if you will. No changes from what was previously presented at the workshop on May 3rd. Oops, let's see. My apologies, I skipped too fast. To the CIP program. As was presented on June 7th for 23-24, there is a total of 32 projects, just over $21 million that's being recommended or included in the budget. What's represented today is just the financial component. There is no changes from what you guys adopted on June 7th. And for 24-25, it's 21 projects, just over $12 million. What we wanted to highlight in this slide is the importance of other funds when it comes specifically to our CIP program. While general fund and quality of life are important, as you can see, the majority of funding that comes to really support the CIP program comes from a number of other funds, including our DIF, our CFD funds, our gas tax funds, and together they help piece together our CIP program. So while they are not discretionary as general fund, they really do truly serve a purpose in helping achieve the objectives of the city in developing a capital improvement program. For the public who is interested in seeing the CIP program as was adopted by council on June 7th, it is now available on our city website. And these next slides give you the total big picture of the big number when you take general fund and all the other funds and fiduciary. And when we speak of fiduciary, what we're really speaking about is the item that went right before this, our bonded CFDs. So while they are not city obligations, we are a pass-through, so we still have to have appropriations and revenues in place. So we have to have the revenue to recognize the special taxes that are going to come from property taxes, and we also have to have on the expenditure sides appropriations to recognize the debt service that will pass through the city. So we connect citywide to be represented by our general fund, our operating budget, and our CIP program, and fiduciary, because fiduciary gives you a full picture, but it is not part of the city's operating or CIP program budget. Our city-wide budget without fiduciary, when you put it together, looks like $135 million in appropriations. That is $90 million in general fund and quality of life. In other special revenue, and other funds, you're talking about $23 million for a total of $114 million in operating budget. In the CIP program, it's $21.1 million for a total citywide budget of $135 million. This represents a workforce of 330.40 FTEs, including the positions that are being recommended. On the public safety side, with specific to our police department, that would be 122 public safety, that's sworn and professional and cadet personnel. For 24-25, the number is 130 million. And so why the decrease? That's because in our 23-24, you have a larger CIP program budget. So that's where you see that difference on it. Our operating budget is more or less in line across our general fund and our quality life. We're looking at $118 million. And then our CIP program goes from 21 to about $12 million. The workforce remains the same because, again, we are not making any recommendation for personnel additions at this point in time. We will revisit that and present things for council to consider at the mid-cycle. That 135 or that 130 that we're looking at, what does it get the community and what are the responsibilities of the city? Well, it's a number of services, everything ranging from our economic development to our public safety, parks and rec, building and safety, land development, city clerk, community development, and all the departments that are internally there to support those operations of our outward-facing departments. Some of the services that we provide are achieved through interagency agreements, of which specifically we have an agreement in place with the City of Murrieta for dispatch services. The proposed 23-24 dispatch services agreement is $3.2 million, which is not a change from the current year, but for 24-25 it is a $3.4 million amount, which is an increase of about $200,000. For animal services, on the field services side, we have an agreement with Animal Friends of the Valley. The proposed budget for the upcoming 2 years is $234,000. It is exactly the same amount that we currently have. And then our larger contract interagency partnership is with fire services, and that includes a proposed 23-24 amount of $18.9 million and $19.9 million in 24-25. That is an increase of $1.8 million from the adopted budget in 22-23 and $900,000 or just over that for 24-25. That is reflected based on, again, MOU and labor negotiations that happen at the state level and are passed through to our agreement for fire services. The city also provides other services through joint power authorities, and that's where we are a member in specific groups, and that's relative to our insurance side. So the city leverages membership and participation through the California Intergovernmental Risk Authority, that's CIRA. That's where other public agencies work together to achieve lower premiums and balance the risk amongst kind of like a shared responsibility across each other. For the upcoming year, we do have a proposed budget in our premium represented by workers' compensation, general liability, and other insurance of $2.1 million and then $2.2 million. For 24-25, that is an increase of just over $500,000 in the first year and $134,000. And really the majority of the increase is in our general liability premium increases. In the last few years, just across the state, you have just seen insurance premiums continue to increase across the industry. To the other side of our animal control, we have animal sheltering services, and in that one, we are part of a JPA. We are part of the Southwest Communities Financing Authority. For the 2 upcoming years, we have a proposed budget of $666,000 and then $690,000, some change for 24-25. They are slight increases of just over $23,000 for both years, but this also captures the annual debt service that the JPA pays back for the animal shelter that was built. The city uses its DIF fund to pay that portion back, so that $195,000 and $200,000 that you see will be funded by our DIF revenue. To our special districts, which we touched on earlier this afternoon, these represent a very special component to the city because they help finance our operating budget, but they also help oftentimes fund and supplement our CIP area. The city has a number of these. In our lighting and landscape maintenance areas, we have 44 zones, 42 are active, and as Ms. Lockwood presented earlier today, they fund a variety of things across our right-of-way. We have 6 distinct county service areas that were inherited by the county, and they provide everything from streetlights and to CSA 145, where they provide some direct funding for park maintenance and recreation services. And then we have CSA 86, which covers the Quail Valley area and includes road maintenance, streetlights, and law enforcement. Our CFDs is our newest type of special district and is our fastest growing one. Every time a new development comes into the city, they are annexed into a maintenance CFD because this provides a mechanism for the city and to continue to provide regular maintenance to our everything from park maintenance, landscape maintenance, street sweeping services. So it provides the city that kind of dedicated funding source that then allows us in other areas like our general fund and quality of life to redirect that in into other services. So our special districts, similar to what we showed you guys in the budget workshop, in the effort to provide more transparency for when the public wants to know about their special districts, we understand that this is something they directly see in their property taxes, and for them to have a true kind of accounting of where their money goes and how much is left. The budget book document that is provides not only the revenues that are proposed for the upcoming year, the historicals and the expenditures and where they're directed, but also the ongoing fund balance that will show how much is specific to that fund, as it is tracked separately and maintained separately for each one. So with the totality of even the fiduciary funds, which are our bonded CFDs, they're just over $1.4 million for each year. The total expenditures for all funds, citywide and fiduciary, are $137 million, and then $132 million for 24-25. The graphs give you a visual representation of kind of what the components in general fund in both cases represents the majority of kind of the expenditure side for the city's budget. When we started this exercise of exploring the biannual process, we knew that part of that really required us looking at that long-range financial planning element. And so the city spent some time developing, in conjunction with Urban Futures, a 10-year forecast model. We are presenting to you the trimmed-down version of just the 5-year horizon to make it a little bit more legible from what you saw last time, and with a graphical representation. As you can see, for 23-24, the reason you see revenues being less than expenditures is because of the deliberate use of fund balance for the CIP program. Apart from that, all else held equal, as we continue and proactively produce budgets that reflect steady growth on expenditures and revenues, and without significant spikes in either side, we look to continuing to present in the next 5-year cycles balanced budgets. And in summary to the strategic plan and how this all aligned, this is just a listing of all the action items that are specifically called out in the strategic plan that was adopted by council this spring, that are embedded and incorporated as part of the biannual budget that's being considered today. Moving from the numbers itself, the last component of what's being considered today is specific to the policy updates, but it is important to factor these in today because the city does have an existing budget policy that was adopted in 2013, I believe. It's been retitled to CC15. Previously, I believe it was FN13, as the agency has looked to consolidate the naming of policies. CC15, meaning that it's a council adopted policy, is the name referred to our budget policy. The policy that was adopted in 2013 was structured to be follow an annual budget cycle. So the reason we're introducing this in conjunction with the budget today is to make it match what we intend to do, to make it match the policy in itself. To summarize what the changes that are being incorporated in the policy for consideration is specifically changing it from annual to biannual process. And in that, the existing policy already identified a mid-year review process, but we are introducing the mid-cycle. So we're retaining the mid-year because that will still apply, but we want to call out that there will also be a mid-cycle review process and timeline. Historically, we've always had the CIP budget as part of the annual budget process, but our existing policy didn't specifically call it out. So to be consistent with the 5-year plan that's in there, we've identified what constitutes a CIP project, which is already defined again in the annual plan or the 5-year plan that gets adopted. So we've just picked that up and added it to the policy so it's together. Since we believe the importance of having long-term financial planning is integral to budget procedures themselves, we joined the two and explicitly called out that as we develop our budgets in our biannual process, that long-term financial planning would be part of what's integrated in there. And then the last item that we are asking for is carryover appropriations previously approved by City Council to be authorized by the city manager. In the area of purchase orders and contracts, the existing policy and annual adoption annual resolution authorized that, but by practice, we always brought it to council. So we just want to reintroduce that and state that we want to do that. And grant-funded programs and projects historically were not. CIP program appropriations would come to council every year. The reason for these is because when it comes to purchase orders and contracts, that means there's already a contractual commitment in place. Activity has already commenced, and unfortunately, what happens with some POs and contracts is the project has started, but it can't all finalize nicely on June 30th. So you still have the finality of that project or contract or delivery of that purchase order to be done. So the carryover is just the conclusion of it that moves forward into the next year. With the grant-funded programs and projects, oftentimes they have performance periods similar to a contract that goes beyond a fiscal year. So to match that performance period, our recommendation is to allow that to happen more automatically, because when every grant is accepted by council formally, the authorization is to move forward with completing that project to fulfill the grant requirements itself. The CIP program appropriations are assigned fund balance. This is in the element that many CIP projects are multi-year and extend beyond the 12 months. And to continue the streamlining and facilitation for our CIP project implementation of making the availability of funds available for encumbrance immediately from one fiscal year to another, our recommendation is to automate that, to allow that. Now, this would not, again, be an addition of any appropriation that was not approved by council previously. Any new request would still come to council in a traditional BAR or budget amendment resolution. This would simply allow for the carryover activity to happen at an automated process, and a summary of all carryovers would be presented during the mid-year review process. On the budget adoption resolution and assigned fund balance to this, for the annual budget adoption resolution, we did have a request or a clause included this year specifically on the area of vehicle purchases. In the last few years, and really in the last year, we've had a number of staff reports where we've had to come back to council a number of times because the orders have been canceled because of the vendors, of the availability of vehicles, and then we find ourselves having to start out the process all over and procure that. So the request in this item specifically is to authorize the city manager to execute agreements or issue purchase orders for vehicle purchases and or leases, provided that the vehicle purchases are part of the approved budget appropriation already, and that all applicable purchasing requirements such as biddings were satisfied. So we would still be competitive, we would still solicit quotes, we would still do bids if necessary. This is in the effort to streamline and prevent the back and forth that happens. And similar to the carryovers, as part of the mid-year review, we would provide a summary of all vehicles that were purchased during the year. Specifically for 23-24, this includes appropriations of approximately $1.3 million, which includes, it's actually 5 vehicles, not 6, 8 patrol vehicles and a street sweeper. The largest of the $1.3 million is represented by the street sweeping vehicle, as the city has now assumed responsibility of street sweeping across the city for its areas, and that is just over $500,000 that will be funded by DIF as well as special districts that receive street sweeping, so there is no general fund that is being used for that. And then we have 2 leases that are recommended with the community services positions that are included for consideration, as well as the purchase of 1 vehicle for the senior public works inspector. So 3 of the vehicles are related to new personnel requests, and we talked about the 8 patrol vehicles. In 24-25, it's the addition of 3 vehicles and 8 patrol vehicles. And on the side of assigned fund balance, per the city's existing fund balance policy, CC07, Section A.4, the assigned fund balances section authorizes the city manager to establish or increase assigned fund balances. What we are recommending today is under that clause to authorize the city manager to establish a fleet replacement assigned balance with any year-end available savings up to $500,000 in aggregate. and increasing the self-insured retention assigned balance from $75,000 up to $300,000 in aggregate. These are proactive efforts as we foresee seeing our existing vehicle, not just on the patrol side, but our what we call our white fleet, our main kind of vehicles that are used by field staff needing replacement. And instead of having to use our kind of revenues for the upcoming year in that kind of same vein of starting to establish savings, so when the time comes to appropriate, we have that in place. That is the intent of doing that. On our self-insured retention, it is as our operations become more complex and we have just a larger organization, the element of just any potential of having multiple claims per year may be larger, and we just want to proactively address that so that if we find ourselves in an event where we may have more than one claim in a year, we have a set aside savings that we can pull from instead of having to look for the revenue in that particular year. Now, these are assigned fund balances, meaning the city and staff would not be using them without approval from council and appropriations, because they would set aside as an assigned fund balance. You would see it in the Treasury report as dedicated, as not committed, but assigned fund balances. And when the time came that we were intending to recommend using, you would see them in either in a budget cycle recommendation or as in a staff report with an appropriation request. So this is really moving in the vein of and the thought of proactively setting dedicated savings for these purposes. That concludes my presentation, and staff has 4 recommended actions today. That's the adoption of the revised long-term financial planning and budget procedures policy, the adoption of a resolution approving the 23-24 and 24-25 budget, the adoption of a resolution approving the GAN appropriations limit, the adoption of a resolution approving the classification and compensation plan known as the authorized position listing. We are available for any questions that council may have at this time.
Thank you, Ms. Cornejo. That was very comprehensive, but you delivered it very well, so thank you. Council members, do we have any questions for Margarita? We won't discuss quite yet, but we'll take questions at this point. All right, hearing no questions. Okay. Councilmember Estrada.
Thank you, Ms. Cornejo. I noticed in slide 5 you talk about, or the staff mentions the calendar and the series of events that happen from July to December. Does council receive any updates on how the year closed out?
So you will see how the year closed out formally every year in your year-end, the annual comprehensive, the ACFR, the financial. So we're going to have an audit happen right in the fall, where auditors will come in and close out officially the books, and then we come and present for you the year end as 22-23 will end right around December. We just met with our auditors actually 2 weeks ago and set that schedule, and our intent is to bring that back to you first meeting in December if possible.
Okay, thank you. And then I was aware of the 8 patrol vehicles, but in 23-24, 6 vehicles, and 24-25, 3 vehicles. What are the vehicles for, or who are they helping out?
Yes. So for the other vehicles that are not patrol related, there is the inclusion of a RAV4 for the Fire Marshal's Office. The funding of this is a QMD fund, so not general funds. This is money that is really directed historically to be used for air quality kind of elements. So we've used it for specifically the purchase of hybrid vehicles. This particular vehicle unit that's being requested is to replace a unit that is at the end of its life cycle for existing personnel in the Fire Marshal's Office. We also have the request of two additional leases for the 2 community services field staff that are being requested. So if approved, those positions will require a truck. Community services typically goes for their vehicle use through a lease with Enterprise. And so the cost for that is just around, I believe, around $18,000 a year for the lease. So it's not the full purchase of those ones. There's also the request of a purchase for the Senior Public Works Inspector position, which is a new personnel request. If approved, that position will need a vehicle, and it's just around $50,000 for that. That would be funded from general fund. did I do for it? And then there is a replacement of one F-150 for Public Works, for a Public Works position. So there's 5, as a clarification, there are 5 positions that are, 5 vehicles that are being requested, 8 patrol, not 6 in 23. And then for 24, 25, there is a second Public Works vehicle that's being replaced. And give me a second, I wrote it. Yes, there are 2 Public Works vehicles. One's an F-150 and one's an F-250, and that's for the operations side and the maintenance side.
Okay, pretty impressive. You know this stuff like the back of your hand. Last question. Fire safety personnel, I noticed we're splitting that with Lake Elsinore, but we're paying, are we paying a little bit more? It says we're taking on 0.6. Why isn't it 50-50 if we're sharing it?
So I will have Chief Olson provide some clarification on that, if you will.
Good evening. So when we look at the position and the workload demand, where the majority of the time that person will spend their time in assisting me, it will be within the city of Menifee. So that was kind of the negotiation that we came up with on what was fair and that cost share.
Got it. So we'll be getting a little bit more.
Correct.
So we'll be paying a little bit more. Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
No problem.
Councilman Dynas is next in the queue.
Thank
Question?
you. I'd like to go back to slide 5 that Councilman Estrada referred to. Since we're going to it's our first time we're doing a 2-year budget, walk me through when City Council will receive some updates on the budget. You know,
On the budget itself.
We're going to do it. You know, we approve the budget now. July 1, it becomes effective.
Yes.
When will the next time we see how we're doing budget-wise?
Okay, you will see it formally in a summary and presentation as part of your mid-year cycle review. Now, the goal is to,
mid-year cycle, that'd be like
we're looking at,
December, January?
we're looking at end of January, first meeting of February for that.
Okay, so what used to be the mid-years now,
Yes,
first year mid-cycle?
yes, that would be your
Okay, I'm
first
gonna
year.
have to get a little pamphlet here to tell you what all this stuff means.
Yes, and then in April-ish, we're going to come back with mid-cycle, which is looking at the second year. So you'll still see your mid-year, but we're trying to advance it. So we don't want to push them where you're looking at mid-year in March and then turning around and looking at mid-cycle. So we want to strategize on how we get mid-year February to you. The reason we can't bring it in December is because we have a number of revenues that don't come in until after December 31st. So we need to give just some time to close out that December 31st, and that's why we're looking at that February kind of threshold for the first time for you. Now, in the future, as we move towards our ERP, and it will be implemented in this, the vision and the goal of that is to give you guys quarterly reporting in addition to your mid-year cycle. Part of that legwork, though, is really in getting a system, a financial system that has the capacity to produce some of these regular financial reports in an easier, more automated way. And so we are going through an 18-month implementation. You wouldn't see it this fall because we're well into the 18-month, but we're hoping to optimistically see that in the second year version of that.
Okay, thank you. Another question on the slide 49, talking about authorizing the city manager to establish a fleet replacement assigned balance. So at year end, any available savings up to 500,000, you're going to capture that and to build up our replacement for vehicles.
Yes.
And then at the same time, now the insurance one, is that a one time, or will we just do that in case if there's a payout?
Yes,
and
exactly.
it drops below 300,000, then we replenish that. Okay, so when you say year end, which year end are we talking about now?
We're talking about, for example,
The end of the 2-year cycle, or each
the
year?
end of, for example, 22-23 this year.
Okay.
When we end 22-23 and we have all our numbers audited and verified, we'd look at that and see if there's that availability and capacity to do that. So really, you would be seeing in the mid-year review that we look at February, if there was the capacity to be able to do that. We could provide you an update by then.
Okay, so that'd be the end of each fiscal year then?
The end of each fiscal
Okay.
year.
Lastly, a question request on the CC 15, our new long-term financing. you know, the report I got in the staff report just had section 1, 2, 3, then bullet points after that. Would it be possible to do like A, B, C, or something like that? Because it's impossible to refer to a
To bullet-
section, the third bullet point from the top of the page on the left-hand side. You know, that it'd be much easier if we could do that.
Yes, that is a good
request.
suggestion. I'm looking at our city attorney to make sure that we can do that administratively. Okay.
Okay.
Just for ease of not forgetting it, when you make a motion later tonight, we will just assume that you included changing the bullets to letters.
Okay, because make sure it's there, because I'll forget. Thank you. That's all I have. Thanks.
Any other questions, council members? All right, hearing none. Madam Clerk, are there any requests to speak, or have we received any correspondence on this item?
No, we do not.
Okay. Council members, it's back open for discussion. I'll just kind of kick off and say, you know, I'm really pleased, and I think we're fortunate. We've been lucky, I guess. Fortune's probably a better word, that we've been able to have a budget that's structurally balanced over all these years. It's not always going to be the case. There will be days when we need to tap into some of those reserves, but as of this report, it's a 2-year budget, and the other thing I like is that it projects to maintain that 35% reserve fund policy, and I think that's prudent for Menifee to have. It shows that we're responsible in having a rainy day fund, and so it's great to see that we're financially strong, so that's a good thing. I don't know if any other council members have any comments. Go ahead, Councilmember Sobek.
Yeah, Mayor, I agree with you on that reserve. And then also, I'm proud to say that we have a balanced budget again this year being proposed. And I just want to thank you and your team for putting this together. What a great report. And like Councilmember Estrada said, you know this like the back of your hand. Great job, Margarita. Thank you.
Other comments, council members? Councilman Dinas?
Yeah, I just want to say that the staff report was well written. You know, you didn't have to look at the budget book to understand where we're going. Even though I loved the pictures, looked at and I did read the budget book, I did read through it, but it was well put together. I've seen a million different budgets over my career. This was one of the easiest to follow, and I think our residents should be happy about that. That they have something that they can pick up and read and fairly and well understand. So, kudos to you.
Agreed. Any other? Go ahead.
I did want to take a moment, though, to thank all the staff that was involved in this process. When we first started talking as an organization about doing a 2-year budget cycle in January, there was an element of it that was scary because we're like, that's something we haven't done before in our history, but it was also exciting because it's something we haven't done in our history before in that way. But we always knew that it wasn't going to be done by one single person. It was going to be done by the collaboration of the entirety of the organization in different roles and in different ways. So it's my honor to get to be the one that delivers this message, but really there are 330 employees, if approved, that represent what's being presented here. And we want to thank the council for giving us the trust and the ability to do this and the time to come back and put this out. We, as well as our committees and commissions. I see our quality of life members. I think there were 3 here earlier. Now Mr. Knighton is the only one here because we know it takes time to sit and sift through that, but it is significant because it's literally the use of taxpayer dollars. To our finance department in particular, we are now a team of 20, and each one of them throughout this process has been instrumental, and including our budget team in particular, Mr. Tartaglia, who's behind me here, and Mrs. Where'd you go? Lockwood, who is joining us in the back end. Really, we spent a Saturday here like crunching and putting some elements together, and I think for them in particular, it felt extra special because they are staff employees, but they are also residents of here. So there's a vested interest for them, as well as our finance manager, Anne Marie, that just celebrated her 10 years here. There's just this vested interest in the community because they're part of it. So thank you guys all so much.
That's why you guys are an award-winning finance team, so well done. All right, so council members, there's 4 things for us to approve. We can do them together, right, Mr. Melching? One of them is to adopt the revised long-term finance planning and budget procedures policy, as well as a resolution approving the fiscal years 23-24 and 24-25 budget. Also a resolution approving the GAN appropriations limit and a resolution approving the class and comp plan known as the authorized position listing. Can I get a motion to approve all 4 of those items together?
So moved.
Second?
Okay. And that passes unanimously with 4 yeses and an absent. And so well done, team. Let's move on. Item 13, city attorney reports. Do you have anything, Mr. Melching?
Not tonight, Mayor.
All right, and then 14 is city manager reports. Do you have anything for us,
Yes,
Mr.
Mayor
Villa?
and Council, I have a couple of things to
Okay.
bring up. First of all, I'm still, my jaw, you know, Margarita did such a good job. Earlier today, she was presenting to us, and I look over and then I ask, "Are you reading something?" He goes, "No, it's just, I'm just talking," and it's all memory, so thank you, Margarita. That was great presentation. Correct, and you know, we did have a meeting with Councilman Carwin last week. He wanted to make sure that we review the budget with him, and he had some really good input. So he was instrumental also in giving us some input on that. So thank you. I want to take a little bit of time to thank the finance team, but also every department has an analyst that works closely with the finance department to put together a budget. And this year, I'm really proud. I feel like a proud dad that saw the progress and the collaboration, and then it really made it a lot easier for all of us to make those decisions because we were getting instant numbers. So I want to congratulate the team, the finance team. Every department played a role in the formulation of the department. And I think it really starts with the foundation that the council set out. You know, having a strategic plan and having a CIP and having a well-formulated plan of attack really helps put together the budget. So I want to thank you for that direction, but most important for the staff members who are involved in this process. It really is, it was a daunting task, and I think we're going to take a victory lap later today. Thank you. Tomorrow, yep. Second, Patrick, if you can put that picture up, you probably recognize these ladies. These are our economic development team. They're at CalEd. CalEd is a state organization that statewide that touches on all economic development. They're in training today, trying to learn techniques and systems and new innovative ways to bring more wealth into our community. But that's not the reason I'm saying that. The reason I'm saying that is tomorrow we were made aware that we were going to be picking up 2 awards for some of the innovative programming that we have done. And let me see if I can read that. One is for the collaborative partnerships with the County of Riverside for the Workforce Development Center that we have at Cay San Isidro. We're always trying to bring localized services, regional services to our residents, so we have a partnership with the County of Riverside. And it was a sort of a pilot project that we initiated with them, and we submitted it for presentation and won an award for collaborating and bringing services locally. And then the second award was for our economic recovery and resiliency plan. As you know, we have an economic incentive program, more specifically catered to local small businesses. We have used that program to make sure that our local businesses don't miss out. So as you know, we've done several incentive programs with local restaurants. So that also won an award for the innovation that we included in that. So our economic development team continues to hit it out of the park, you know, with some of the innovative programs. And I'm sure they're going to be bringing back some really innovative programs that other cities have been successful in doing, and we're going to be implementing them. So next year. And then earlier today, you heard Dave Brown, and also you noticed that the fire incident yesterday was a complete success. As you know, fire spread really quick, and it started as a small fire. It turned into a 4-acre fire, and before you know it was a 40-acre fire. But our fire department, our police department, our public works department went into action quickly and was able to eradicate the fire. And it was a collaborative effort of all involved that really prevented the loss of property and, most important, the loss of life. So I want to thank the county, thank the Chief Olson, and all the firefighters that participated in that. Because of that, and because of the training that we've been doing and the level of collaboration, I think we had a really successful plan of attack. So I want to congratulate them and thank them. So, and that is my report. Thank you.
All right, and congratulations to your team for both those awards. I think that's commendable. And I agree with what you said about the fire too. You know, we all watched Phos-Chek planes dropping chemicals. We watched helicopters dousing it with water, and it was pretty amazing how quickly that response was. And so thank you, Lonnie, for that. All right, nothing else, Mr. City Manager? All right, then, council members, any future agenda requests? Hearing none, we're going to adjourn. It is 8:35, and great meeting, everybody. Thanks for sticking it out. Have a good night.